The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get your free financial survival toolkit and find out where to buy gold and silver safely at great prices. Sign up at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
1490 WGCH. This is Kerry Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network, which is brought to you by Miles Franklin. They've been in business selling gold since 1990, and I'm a customer because when you buy, they ship. To find out more, go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 and get a free quote. This is Kerry Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. We are here live at Freedom Fest 2012 in beautiful, depressed Las Vegas, Nevada. It's the epicenter of the real estate bust and the economic depression that has swept the world. With me is Matt Needham from Students for Liberty. You can find them at studentsforliberty.org. He was here last year, too. Hey, Matt, welcome to the financialsurvivalnetwork.com.
Thanks, Kerry. Pleased to be here.
We appreciate your being here because you are the future. You guys get what's going on in the economy and the country. What are your biggest concerns right now as far as where we are as a nation and the economy?
I think economic illiteracy is a big problem. You know, a lot of students want to see their student loan forgiven. Student debt is a serious problem. The government has played a huge role in it, just like, the mortgage crisis. But if students don't understand the negative effects of forgiving all these student loans, we're not going to be able to, go forward as a country. So I think spreading literature about, economic ideas, Austrian, Chicago, alternatives to status quo, that's a big priority for us.
Student debt. Basically, most younger people have been brought up to believe that you go to college, you get a degree in puppetry or women's studies or art history or English, and it's your ticket to the good life. What's your feeling about that?
I think it's just another symptom of the mentality state that comes with the welfare state. College shouldn't be for everyone, If it was that way, there'd be no real value to it. So I think we need to change the narrative that everyone should go to college and fit the single model of what success means. And we want to bring a diversity of options to people for the future to the table.
So let's say, hypothetical here, I'm going to give you $200,000, Matt, to either go to college to get your degree in puppetry, or you can start a business. What would you do?
I think I would start the business. You sound like, are you familiar with Peter Thiel's 20 and 20, I believe it was called, program he did? So Peter Thiel, he had this big initiative. He said, I want to find some of the brightest young people out there, and I'm going to give them the seed capital to go out and start businesses. Peter Thiel was at our latest international conference in February that we had in Washington, D.C. I think he's great for recognizing that, there are people who are better served going to the private sector and taking these ideas they have rather than going to college and getting a degree in puppetry like you're talking about. I completely agree with that.
Having gone to college, got a couple of years on you, Matt. When I went, I think I paid about maybe $18,000, $19,000 for an education that wasn't from an Ivy League school. It was a business-related school called Pace University in New York City, where it was the ticket for the middle class to a better life. They became accountants for what were then called the Big Eight, finance people on Wall Street. We were right around the corner from Wall Street. So what about this idea? I mean, I believe in knowledge for knowledge's sake and liberal arts foundation, but what about these colleges actually teaching you something that's going to help you make a living?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think we're seeing a lot of people move towards models outside of the university model for terms of the liberal arts education. There's organizations like the Institute for Humane Studies who put on these week-long and weekend seminars where students can go and engage in exchange of ideas. Online learning is really starting to develop. Maybe there's places where it's worth investment to pay a lot for skills-based development. And there's other avenues for liberal arts education that don't have to be so expensive as the current university model is.
Yeah, and I hadn't intended to interview you about education, but we're on the subject. Let's go to the failing primary education. Every major city in the country, their schools are failing. A lot of the suburbs are. Even the so-called great public schools you have to wonder about these days. How does the free market turn that situation around?
Well, you know what? The free market isn't perfect, and there will be problems with private schools and private education, but it's going to be so much better just because markets offer people choices. They allow people to reflect their values by prices and what they purchase. And so I think what we're seeing is that this idea that there's only one model to education, and that has really not served us well. A lot of young people are disenfranchised by the current model. They're wasting so much time listening to lectures when they could be out working with their hands, developing skills. And so I think the markets would offer diversity of options for people to figure out what they're best suited for.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of problems with these government schools of indoctrination and really straying away from their core mission, which is to educate the youth of tomorrow, the youth of today, to become the producers of tomorrow. And I remember the comedian Jackie Mason saying, when I went to school, they gave homework, now they give condoms. And it's that crazy kind of thing. So how long your organization, Students for Liberty, been around?
So we've been around for 5 years now. We started off as a small group of students interning in Washington, D.C., who had a roundtable discussion about how to best organize students. They decided to hold a conference which brought 100 people together. They were thrilled with it. And now that conference in 5 years has grown to 1,000 people, and we're continuing to grow every day across the country and across the world even. European Students for Liberty has taken off in the past 2 years. We're expanding in Africa, East Asia, all across the world.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about great ideas. No matter what the propagandists do, no matter what the statists do, they really can't stop good ideas from taking hold like wildfire. The internet being the Gutenberg printing press of the modern era, you can't stop these ideas from getting out, can you?
Oh, definitely. One thing we like to say in Students for Liberty is we're so confident in these ideas. We have the right ideas. Now we need to make sure we have the right people to carry out those ideas, in the private sector, in the policy world, in academia. We're all about leadership development to take these right ideas to society and spread the word.
Wish you Godspeed, Matt. You're doing great work, and thanks for being on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. People want to find out more about Students for Liberty. Where do they go?
Studentsforliberty.org.
All right, and if you want to hear this interview and many others, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. We're on iTunes. Just put in Financial Survival. You'll find us, subscribe, sign up for the free newsletter, the Financial Survival Toolkit, and we'll put a link up for studentsforliberty.org too. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Kerry.